Hi everyone, and welcome to my November 2018 edition of my interview series with women leaders. I'm Emily Wishall of Wishall Wellness, and I'm a certified Rolfer and Art of Feminine Presence teacher. And I'm here today with the amazingly talented Kim Robbins. Kim is the owner and Pilates teacher at Core Wisdom here in Boulder, Colorado. Kim has been teaching Pilates for over 20 years. So she knows her shoes. We'll say. She knows what she's talking about, and I've personally had a one-on-one Pilates instruction from her, and yeah, I was really impressed with that subtle depth and shifts. So I'm excited to get to share her with you all today and learn some wisdom, some core wisdom.
Some core wisdom. Nicely done.
So Kim, what brought you into, because you've been teaching Pilates for over 20 years now, that's a long time, what brought you into that path?
Yes, so I got started in Pilates through my dance training in college.
Mm-hmm.
I was considered a back row dancer, and from there we did.
And back row is not a style of dancing. You're meaning the back row.
Put her in the back.
Okay, just to clarify.
I wasn't very good, and through my modern teacher had studied. She had danced for Alvin Ailey's company in New York, and she learned Pilates from somebody who learned Pilates. I don't know how the lineage went down, but so through her, we did mat work, which is just the floor work, no equipment. Our mats were little carpet sample squares.
Oh, wow. Teeny tiny.
They were small.
Yeah.
So just enough of your spine would fit on that. But anyway, after a year of...
And mat work is just doing, for someone who doesn't know, Pilates on just a mat, so on a floor.
On the floor. No equipment.
No equipment.
Yeah, you're seeing the equipment in the background, but just on the floor like you could do at home. And after a year of doing that, I got lead roles the following semester after all of that. And so...
That's huge. You went from back row dancer to lead roles.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was impressive.
Yeah.
And the Pilates gave me control over my body, over my movement.
And that's why you think you were able to make that jump?
Totally, no doubt about it. It's the only thing that changed for me.
When we were talking earlier, right before we came on and started filming, Kim had shared a little bit of that story, and you had a different languaging though with that relationship with your body and the control of movements.
Control. I
think you said you owned your body.
I owned my body, exactly. I owned my movement, I owned my body, and what that is to me is being able to know what I need to do, how I need to do it, and how to make it happen.
In a movement.
In a movement sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Like knowing what muscle to engage to get this thing to stabilize or that thing to move.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you really worked, so Pilates is really working with a lot of, from a nervous system level, and creating new neural pathways, maybe you could say. And I think often, sometimes, there's certain muscles we don't know how to engage. It's like, okay, we can all flex our bicep, but like, what's that really helping?
Right.
So,
yeah, it's
cool.
definitely more of a center. Pilates is definitely, in one word, I would say Pilates is core.
Okay.
But and you need a strong center so that you can, the image I give is if you stick a for rent sign in the ground this much, the wind blows, it's going to get knocked over. If you stick it down in the ground, firmly with some, where you have like strong center support, like you have your core around your spine, it doesn't matter how you're going to move. If the wind blows, if you start to trip and fall, you're more likely to, like, you just have a better place. You have, you have more
integrity, maybe even. So on the topic of core, as I think there's a lot of misinformation about what the core means, and I think often for many people, immediate thought is six-pack abs core, or like I gotta do my sit-ups, or my core is weak. But like, what does that really mean? And I think even those who are like, oh, I have a weak core, so what does that mean to them individually? What muscles? What do you think of as the core?
To me, the core is pelvic floor and transverse abdominis.
And how do people, what is the transverse abdominis muscle? How can they engage that if they're watching?
How do they engage that? Well, it would be It's very, well, the transverse abdominis goes from your pelvis to your rib cage. The fibers are more horizontal. It's kind of like a corset.
And it's deep.
It's deep,
so
yes.
It's
so
behind those six-pack.
It's definitely behind. The six-pack is, it's like the ribbon or the bow or the cherry on top. It doesn't really serve a function other than that it looks pretty in our culture.
Okay.
I mean, it serves some purposes, but we can't, no. Transverse abdominis is directly on top of all your organs.
Okay, awesome.
And then on top of that, you have your obliques, and then your six-pack abs goes on the top of that.
Okay. So if somebody, I often will think of, and this is a great thing to share with you because you might be like, oh, not quite. I think if you want it, like a really quick, kind of crude way to engage the transverse abdominis is just to make the sound.
Yeah, because then your low belly will pull in.
Yeah,
right?
so just to have people like a feeling sense of how do you engage that.
That's a great, might I borrow that? When
I thought my core myth was, I thought I was going to get busted. Okay, that core myth isn't busted.
But maybe that's also because I know I'm trying to use my transverse abdominis. I mean, you could and push your belly out. It's a different sound. It's a lift.
Like the hissing of a snake.
Like if your pants were, you stick them in the dryer and they're a little snug. If you pull in your belly just enough to button. Like it's a little bit of that, but it's not like the guys on the beer commercials where they really suck in their stomach.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's much more subtle, and it's low. I think most people feel their transverse abdominis between their belly button and the pubic bone. Right? It's kind of taking that space and pulling it toward your spine a little bit.
Okay.
But not to change your structure.
And that's a good clarification. So the engagement of the transverse abdominis muscle shouldn't change your structure, meaning you shouldn't do this or something weird.
Change the
it's
shape
subtle.
Of your spine to make that happen.
And why is that important for somebody to, like, what would be a benefit of engagement of that?
Of that muscle? It's
like
where,
so many things.
No, it's great. It's the lowest part of your spine.
So ultimately, a lot of low back support and stability.
Totally.
I think even for people who have just challenges with their low back, I'm like, anytime if you were going to pick up something off the floor, just make the sound.
That's a great.
Just to play with if they don't have any other outside support, if you like, just
Yeah, totally.
So let us know some other core myths. What really, when somebody comes in to see you for the first time and has been told certain things about Pilates or told certain things about their core that really gets you going? Because something I really appreciate and respect about Kim is she's kind of like a no BS and just going to tell you like it is, like, which I appreciate. And like, let's let go of some of the facade of some things and like, let's just get the truth of how to work certain muscles or what's really going on in the body. Are there any that you hear a lot often?
Well, people like, my back's been hurting. They told me I need to strengthen my core, so I've been doing crunches.
Okay. A lot of misdirection just as far as how to do that.
How to do that, right? So we need a strong core to have a strong spine or to support our spine. But if we're going to bear down and crunch, you're just compressing your spine. You're not helping things. So learning how to activate your core from a deep place, meaning deeper levels first, including psoas, which is beneath your organs, runs along the front of the spine. Put your organs back in, put your transverse on, put your obliques on.
Okay.
Forget about the rectus.
Right. The rectus abdominis is the six-pack.
And then also pelvic floor is key.
Okay.
Pelvic floor would be, it's that Kegel thing that most of us have been, at least we've heard of. And it's just a slight engagement of your pelvic floor. I like to think of it more of a drawing up versus just a squeezing tight.
Okay.
Nothing in Pilates should be, right? It's very subtle. It's like 30% max effort.
Okay, I like that, 30%, and that lifting up. So you're getting that lift from the inside out.
Yes, inside out.
Yeah,
totally about.
And share a little bit, if you would. I think this goes on to the next part because, one of the things of many that Pilates does would be to improve your posture. But we're not. When we are taught posture, we're taught like that good, quote unquote, good posture. It's super rigid. So let's just go into that. Like, what did you shared? You even just had the dancer's posture.
Right. So when I started Pilates, I looked my posture was like, you know, when a gymnast lands from their jump or something and their back is really bent.
Okay.
Right. That's
and your chest was really lifted.
Oh yeah, it was like Cirque du Soleil. You know?
And my posture used to be more like the chest lifted, stomach sucked in really hard.
Right, and that's the chin up, chest out. That's our military, like, you know, my dad, chin up, chest out, you know, kind of stuff. And it doesn't need to be that extreme.
But I think it's like, well, so then how can you find that internal lift? So I love that, even just starting from that pelvic floor, finding that lift.
And it's more fluid. It's definitely more fluid. It's not so rigid. I mean, we talked a little bit about the container practice, which we can play with at the end of the video, but just being aware of how your structure is aligned, how like where everything is in relation to each other. I mean, no different than I'm sure you talk with your clients, but getting a sense of structural the muscles supporting your structure, and structure being your bones. Yeah. So your muscles have to hold your bones where they're supposed to be. Or more
and
ideal.
You're really turning on those deep intrinsic muscles. So these larger, I think of it as like the external shell.
Yeah.
Can relax and let go, because one, if we have all of this contracted, that's a ton of energy. But I find in my own experience and experience with a lot of clients, it transpires to this idea of way of showing up in the world in a way that's inauthentic to how you feel on the inside.
Yeah.
So have you experienced that yourself with Pilates, of as you turn those muscles, or maybe with some clients, to just in a more emotional way or self-confidence way that they show up by allowing those deeper muscles to do their job and find that lift from the inside and things lessen?
Definitely. I mean, it can definitely be a very vulnerable thing to experience, to like not hold so much from the outer part of you and just kind of soften.
Yeah.
But the inner strength that you can feel from really working your deep core is so powerful. I mean, you can move through space without having to like puff up, right? You can move through space more zen like.
Yeah, maybe more naturally and fluidly. And so who do you typically, so we're here in Kim's studio, you can see the beautiful machines. Who do you typically see in here, and what do you do?
What do I do? So the people that I see mostly in the studio, it really does range. I have young folks, late 20s. I've worked with people as young as 6 and as old as 91.
Wow, as young as 6, okay.
Yeah, and you know, that's just different. It becomes a little bit more like play. But I've taught Pilates in high school PE classes, high school sports teams. But most of my clients are 55 and over. They have some sort of pain. They're not the traditional, or what we think of as our Boulder athletes. I mean, they're real people doing real Pilates is what we like to say.
Okay.
But most people have some sort of pain or dysfunction that they're trying to work with when they come in.
And do you find, because I think that there is kind of a misconception that to do Pilates, maybe you need to be fit first or look a certain way, or be a dancer.
None of that is
None of
true.
that, okay.
Yeah. So, I have very few of what I think most people think you have to be in here. I have a dancer, I have some triathletes, but for the most part, it's all couch potatoes.
Awesome.
But you know, I mean, that's how they kind of relate to themselves. But you don't have to know what you're doing before you get here.
Okay.
And
and I can vouch that this is a very, I just feel like it's a space that all is welcome, whatever level is welcome.
Yeah.
And I think you do a really good job of meeting people where they are and kind of understanding, okay, what instructions work and what don't, to help guide and facilitate the movement. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between the mat work, where you started on that little
carpet sample,
to what are these that we're sitting on?
Yeah. So Pilates mat work is the easiest to offer, the most widely available, because it requires nothing, which is really unfortunate, because it's the last place that one should go because there's less support, less feedback.
Okay.
The equipment,
less support and feedback from the instructor, you mean, or from your body?
Well, you have to. It's the hardest because you have to have more control. You have to know more.
Okay.
It's the most advanced.
Okay, most advanced. Okay.
However, with that said, we do mat classes with people who it's their first time in.
Okay.
Because we can teach it really, really well. And everything can be modified or advanced. Mm-hmm. But if you're first time, you have back pain, and you go get a Pilates video, mat video for home, probably not the best option. Right?
Okay.
Equipment work was designed to give you support where you can't do it for yourself. So my gross description of Pilates mat work is you lying on your back, holding your head up off the floor and your legs up off the floor for an hour. I can't do that.
I can't do that. It actually reminds me, my first introduction to Pilates was the Mary Windsor's. I bought it from an infomercial, and I had the Windsor circle, and I would squeeze it between my knees, and I would do my...
Your hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very intense. I mean, Pilates can be such a big workout, but it also can be very gentle, very rehabilitative. So the equipment is where, I mean, Joseph built well, I don't know exactly which came first. But
who's Joseph?
Joseph Pilates is the man who developed this movement.
Okay.
And
so men can do Pilates.
it was built for men.
I didn't know it was built for men.
Pilates was built for men. So Joe Pilates built this to improve his boxing, and he was a gymnast, and he was a skier and a diver.
Okay.
So he developed all of these movements to help he developed it to help his own body. He was bow-legged, had rickets, asthma, he was a very frail kid, and he built himself up to be a very strong individual. And he went to, now I'm jumping into Joe history, if that's okay.
I think it's, yeah.
So he went to England during World War I to become a professional boxer, and during that time was imprisoned. And during that period of time, he had people in his camp that were bedridden, and so they couldn't get out of bed and stay fit, and he was teaching the people in his camp, hey, let's do these things, we'll stay, we won't atrophy, our health will be better, we won't get sick. And influenza swept through England during that period, and a lot of people died from it, but the men in his camp did not.
Wow.
So he had people bedridden, and he would take a bed spring out of the coils of the mattress and say, here, pull on this and move your leg, you can't get up, just put your leg in a spring.
It's kind of like the starting of the reformer.
Yeah, or the Cadillac. The Cadillacs are the things we see very far in the back. They're like a 4-corner poster bed. But yeah, so the equipment is, there's a little angled piece that's for holding your head. So if you can't hold yourself in an ab curl, it takes the place of that.
So the equipment might look scary, but it's actually very, very accessible.
It's very supportive.
It's a really safe.
Very, very safe and supportive. It's a little weird at first, but many of us haven't lied on our back and put our legs in springs, and it's a little wobbly, but you're not going to fall off. You're not going to hurt yourself. It just takes a little bit of time. It's new feedback, right? It's a very new experience for our bodies. It's not, it's not bicep curls at the gym. It's just different.
Just different. Cool. I appreciate hearing that little bit too, just the Joseph Pilates story.
One other thing about Joseph Pilates. So Pilates was not originally called Pilates.
Oh.
It was called Contrology. And when he died, they changed it to his last name.
Probably a good change.
Yeah. Well, it's different. But Contrology, and it makes sense. So
yeah, when you
start Pilates and you're doing your first little, let's say, we do a first exercise called knee folds or pistons, and it's a line on your back, knees bent, feet on the mat, and you're going to stabilize your pelvis via using your core.
I remember doing this.
And you just do a leg lift, which you can't see us doing that.
We're doing it.
It's about learning how to use your core to stabilize your pelvis and your spine, and learn how to move your leg separate from your pelvis. So if that's your first exercise...
Can we say that one more time, but slower? So what were those 2 points? You're learning
to stabilize your pelvis and your spine.
Learning to stabilize your pelvis and spine.
And to be able to differentiate your leg from your pelvis.
Beautiful. Cool. And when you differentiate your leg from your pelvis, that is when you're really using the psoas muscle more for hip flexion. And we briefly talked about the psoas muscle, but again, just to share, it's the only muscle that connects the spine into the legs. And ideally, that is what we're using when we are walking and moving. But Kim and I are sitting right now. that muscle is shortened on us. We all sit from a super young age. We lose a ton of functionality, which really, really leads to a lot of different dysfunctions. So I just wanted to back up on that point because, okay, so we're working to differentiate the legs from the pelvis.
So you can move more efficiently, so you know you're firing the right things. But when you learn these things, basically you wouldn't learn the next exercise until you could demonstrate the 6 principles of Pilates.
Oh, wow.
Oh, this is a good lesson. There'll be a quiz at the end. Concentration.
Okay.
Centering.
Okay.
Control.
Oh, they're all C's. Okay.
Right, now we change.
Shoot.
Fluidity, breathing, and precision.
Those are the 6 principles that you
6 principles. So basically, you would go into Joe's gym. It wasn't taught the way it is now. Like you would go in, you would do your knee folds, and as soon as you start to fatigue, you're done. You would go home.
Okay.
You come back the next day, you do them again. You could do that for 3 months before you really had it down, before you didn't fatigue. Because once you fatigue, you're going to work incorrectly.
Yeah.
So you stop before you're tired. And then you need to be able to show that you have all of those things in that exercise before you learn the next thing, because it's definitely layered and built.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So with that layering built, let's talk about, because ultimately all this is kind of coming to alignment. But it's alignment from, the work I do is very much hands-on. This is learning to turn on different muscles to find that lift, find that alignment. And you had shared earlier, you're kind of this, you can't really see, but splaying posture.
Yeah, just kind of back bend.
So how is a way for people to work with this at home?
Like a home exercise, like the container practice?
Yeah, exactly.
So the container practice is, do you want to maybe stand back?
Sure, okay. Let's see if I can do this. Cool, okay.
Awesome. So the container practice, this actually comes from Kathy Grant. She is one of the elders in the Pilates community. So Joseph Pilates developed all of this, and then he had, I don't remember if there are 8, 9, I don't remember the number exactly, but there are people he kind of gave permission to carry on his lineage, and she is one of them. And this is her practice, and I have changed the verbiage of it to fit the needs of my clients and what relates to them. But if we think,
should I just be face on?
I would turn to the side, then you can demonstrate some of the.
So should I go into?
So just kind of maybe find a less not so great place to be.
I'm here. This is not so good.
Not so good. So if
I don't
your
know if
legs,
they can see. That's fine.
Maybe not. We can have visuals. So if your legs, if you could put your legs in a, say, Pringles can type of tube. Your toes would touch the front of the tube, your heels would touch the back, but your thighs wouldn't necessarily be forward or to one side or even really far back, right? So you need to kind of find a center point within your Pringles can.
From the feet up into my thighs.
From the feet up into the thighs.
Okay.
The pelvis would sit on top of the Pringles can like a salad bowl, like what you toss your salad in. And it needs to sit level so that your bowl isn't tipped forward, and that was my position from.
Yeah, so I was like this.
Yeah.
You can actually see that.
You can see that.
So my knees were hyperextended, my thighs were doing something funny.
Right.
So when I wanted to, with Kim's instruction, when I was bringing my thighs, if you can see subtly in the camera.
Yeah, you get less compression.
My thighs came back
space.
and I got more space. My pelvis neutralized more.
Yeah. And it's not just shove your bones somewhere. You can lift your pelvic floor. You get transverse to help you with that. Right, so we learn how to support the structure. That's what this practice is.
Okay.
Right. So then on top of your salad bowl,
I've got my salad bowl here.
your salad bowl is not tipping forward or back, right? We tip back when we like slouch at our computers.
Or in your car.
Or in your car. Oh my gosh, isn't that a thing? So from the salad bowl above it, your rib cage, I like to think of it more like a lampshade.
Okay.
And at the bottom of the lampshade needs to hover or sit directly on top of the rim of the salad bowl. And when I did my original posture, my lampshade, the light would have shined or shone, what's the word, in front of my structure.
Oh, interesting.
And just shine your light directly
straight down the middle.
over your pelvis.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from there, the neck, I don't remember the thing we say, 2 tuna cans, but you can pick
2 tuna cans?
You know, because
Okay,
it's not going to around.
Sure.
It just balances on the top rim of the lampshade. Because the top rim is smaller around than the bottom shade. And then the head just sits on top of those like a helium balloon kind of thing.
Okay.
It wouldn't be forward or side or
I'm trying
back.
to check out where mine's at. I think mine's a little forward.
Be a bit. They'd be pretty good.
Okay.
So it's no different than the posture piece, right? Ear in line with shoulder, shoulder in line with hip, hip in line with knee.
Yeah.
But then how do we muscularly support that piece?
And that's something that I'm going to come back and sip.
Please.
Thank you for that. So this Pringle can, I like the Pringle can analogy. It's something people can work with at home.
Sure.
Just to start and just to get an idea of like, where are you in space?
Right.
What is happening in your body? So, you know, could they like play with it for like 1 to 2 minutes in the morning and just...
Sure. Or any time, you know, while you wait for your coffee to brew. While you're brushing your teeth.
Smart.
When you walk by, you know, if you're stopped at a stoplight and you look to the side and you see yourself in the window and you're like, oh, you know. Or if you, like for me, was just at a concert, just stand for 3 hours. I think I'm young enough. I can do this. My back started to hurt. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, my container, my pelvis was spilled forward, my rib came, and so it's like, oh, we have to stay active with it.
And you know, maybe you just went through that with us while watching it. If not, I would really recommend going back in the video, rewinding, and just take yourself through that process. And maybe you'll notice a shift. Maybe do it in front of the mirror. Yeah. Maybe you'll notice and see a lot. Maybe you won't. But give yourself some space and permission to just be curious and remain in curiosity. Because if this is something new to you, and even if maybe watching you're like, I don't see any difference, it's all okay. It's all good, right? This is what we do, so it might be easier for us to see or feel. But if it's new, it might not be. So just the more you invite that space of curiosity and just play with it throughout your day, the more you may surprise yourself of how much you actually can feel and notice within your own body and structure. So just developing your own relationship to your structure. So it'll be unique to you. What you feel will be unique to you. But giving yourself the space to play with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's, I love when you say, you know, be curious with it. And you use the word curiosity with it. But and that's what it is for each person. Pilates is not the same for every person that comes in. That your Pilates is going to look different than, you know, my 80-year-olds, or yours is going to look different than someone who's closer in age to you. Like, it's all dependent on what you present with. Yeah. And we as instructors, both myself and Samantha, who teaches here at the studio.
Yeah, Kim has another couple instructors.
Our job is to find what it is that you need specifically and how to speak to you about your body and finding your way, because it's not the same for everybody. It's very different. It looks completely different from person to person.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. We covered a lot.
We did cover a lot.
Yeah. Any lasting things you want to clarify?
No, I think we're good.
We busted core myths. We busted Pilates myths.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kim, thank you so much for being here and sharing, really, honestly. And I love the practice. I'm going to start playing with that more.
The container practice.
Yeah, the container practice. And how can people stay in touch with you?
Yes, so you can find all of my contact information on our website at corewisdom.org.
Okay. And I'll have links at the bottom of this video.
Perfect. And we're also very transparent. All of the pricing's online.
Awesome.
And we do offer a free discovery session, which is a 30-minute one-on-one private session for you to just come and see what Pilates is, how can it help you. You know, it's not as scary as it might look. This is not torture equipment. And if you're only interested in building a program that you can do at home so you don't have to spend time or money to come to the studio, we will help set that up with you too.
That is so nice.
It's not a salesy thing. It's got to be what it is for you, what you need, what you want. Otherwise, what use is it?
Cool. Well, thank you for offering that. It's so generous, and just giving it to just help more people feel a little bit more comfortable in their body.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. You're so welcome. Yeah. So thanks so much. So Kim Robbins, Core Wisdom, and play with that Pringle container. Play with the transverse abdominis.
And
just see.
That's a great.
Yeah.
So it is a great cue. I will be stealing
Okay.
that. Expect to see that in the
I
studio.
thought I might get busted.
No,
It's
not at all.
busted. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Kim, and thanks everyone for tuning in, and yeah, take care.